Hello there, I am Richie Stormtrooper. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to new viewers and also welcome back subscribers. This is my little space on the net dedicated to costuming. In particular, we are looking at an original Stormtrooper costume from the first Star Wars movie and New Hope, Episode 4, whatever you want to call it. In this video we are going to be looking at the very first step in any armour build, and that is the trimming of the parts, cutting out of the individual parts. Before we do get started, if you find this video interesting or useful, please do like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on board. I'm going to be posting regular tutorials, 1 to maybe 2 a week, depending on how much time I get. Going to take you through this complete armour build step by step, and I will be telling you in tutorials how to build each part and assemble all the different bits and pieces. We touched on this briefly in the video which I called Getting Started. If you want to go back and watch that video before you watch this one, you can click this link. But we are going to have another quick look at the tools we're going to be using. Before I start, I'd just like to say a lot of people are adept at using rotary tools such as a Dremel. If you are comfortable using such a tool, please go ahead and do so. You can no doubt save yourself a lot of time and manual strength, manual energy if you are adept at using a Dremel. I am not a big user of a Dremel. I do have one. I use it for various bits and bobs, but when it comes to trimming armour, cutting out armour parts, I like to use more traditional tools. My main tool for the rough trimming is something like this, a robust set of shears. These are for cutting cables or whatever. They're labelled as universal shears. I just got them from the general tools section in a DIY shop, DIY store, hardware store, wherever you buy your tools. For more finer work, more detailed work, I have a set of craft scissors. These are modelling scissors. These are for craft work with plastic models and such. I will post a link down below as to where you can get something like this. I find them very useful for more detailed trimming work. These are quite good for quick work. You don't need a lot of power to get through quite larger pieces. Cutting big straight lines, these are great. When you come to more intricate areas, these are great. They are curved, as you can see, which will help you, especially in curved areas, from making too many mistakes that you can't correct later. If you slip, you're going to slip towards the outside, and it's not going to be a big gash here down here that you can't repair. So I find those great for the more detailed, getting in the little nooks and crannies. When you have your part trimmed, you're probably going to want to sand it down with some kind of sandpaper, kind of medium fine grade. The grain on this, 240. I'm not sure what the P stands for, but the number is the indication of the grain. Here these are P400, so these are a bit finer. I have gone as fine as 800 and 1000. I found that was too fine, so you want something that's not too coarse but not too fine either. I get along fine with those. You will find the original parts were very roughly sanded or not sanded at all. I will bring up some, I have my original references here on my laptop that I'll be checking every time I trim a part so that I'm matching it to an original part on an original suit. I urge you to do so also. And you will also find that the people working in the props department seemingly had a lot of pressure. They were working under pressure and didn't have a lot of time, and they certainly left a lot of pieces looking very rough. If you are not the neatest, the tidiest, the most skilled worker, it's not going to matter. You're not going to get these looking like you probably imagined. You probably look at the Stormtrooper on screen and see an immaculate looking suit of armour from a distance. You look close and these are very rough. The beauty of this Stormtrooper armour is it looks great on the outside. A lot of the cuts that you're going to be making are relatively hidden inside a return edge. You can go as idealized as you like. You can, if you are neat and tidy and you want your armour to look really, really smart, how you probably think they should have done the trimming, you can do so. Otherwise, you can go as pretty much as haphazard and varied as you can. You will very rarely see a trimmed line which is straight and even all the way around. I'm going for a kind of happy medium. I also have here like a carpet knife or Stanley knife type thing, one of these with retractable blades, changeable blades. This can be useful if you are, for instance, cutting a long straight line, if you're employing a score and snap technique. I very rarely do so, but sometimes this can come in handy for cutting out little corners or certain parts of the helmet. I will use this. Remember, if you are going to use an open blade like this, please do wear gloves. I don't use it that often. I'm going to be using largely scissors and shears. You will also need a pencil. I like to mark roughly where I'm going to cut with a pencil around the part before I start. So in this video I'm just going to start rough trimming. This is all the trimming you can do on parts before you start assembling. I often like to start off a build like this just to get into the groove, just to get used to the parts again, used to cutting, used to trimming, doing lots of things that you don't have to commit 100% to. You can just get things ready. It's nice relaxing work. Obviously some parts are going to need to be fitted. This is half of a thigh assembly, for instance. You're going to be able to vary where you cut here at the back. There's a kind of a lot of leeway to make these broader or narrower. So at this stage, while we're just doing the rough trimming, preparing the parts ready for assembly, we're going to be trimming along the edges here on the openings of the leg, here the top and the bottom. And we're not going to be cutting this to size yet because we won't be at the assembly stage. At the assembly stage we'll then get the counterpart to this, put it together. We can actually trim the front pretty much. I'm going to be leaving that for now. When we get to assembly we'll be gluing the front and then adjusting the back to get the right shape. First of all, I like to bring up an original piece from an original armour, get the shape right, and then adjust that in the same shape to my size. Okay then, in no particular order, I have picked out the biceps, the 4 parts which make up our biceps armour. I quite often like to start here, just a nice easy part to start off with. I know I have good solid references. This is a good place to start. It doesn't depend, the biceps don't really depend on any other parts. They are pretty much independent of everything else. I will bring up the references that I am using here on my laptop on the screen so you can have a look at them. Again, I urge you to join the forum at whitearmour.net. That's the first Imperial Stormtrooper detachment, the Stormtrooper forum, the forum for Stormtrooper costumes affiliated with the 501st Legion. You do not have to be a member of the 501st Legion. You do not even have to intend to become a member of the 501st Legion. There are a lot of people there and a lot of references. They will help you out. Join up, check out all the reference libraries, and you will have access to all the pictures that I have. That's the place where I found most of my references, so check it out. I find if you hold a pencil as you would normally do so, and go on the outside of the part, you can use this finger, this middle finger, as a kind of guide. You set your distance. On this I want my return edge to be just like so. It's not a great deal of return edge. In the past, before we had access to some of the references that I'm going to be using, there was a tendency to go for a really idealized chunky look. So I have the opportunity here to leave that edge here rather thick. And when we think of a suit of armour, we think of something that's bulky and robust. Now the reality was a lot of this was trimmed out on the original suits, so I'm going as close to accurate as possible. It also makes the parts, certain parts, a lot more comfortable if you leave them rather flat. So I'm going for something around this. I've matched it to my original part. I use this as a kind of gauge, this middle finger, to set where my pencil lands, to keep the same distance, and I just follow the curve of the part all around. On this part, I think I'm going to check on that. On this little raised part, it didn't necessarily follow that curve, so you can continue along the same line, obviously varying your finger gauge. Something roughly along the lines of that. And then you have a guideline. You've marked yourself a guideline. And I think on this one, I'm going to start immediately with my craft scissors. There we go. And that's pretty much an accurate kind of thickness, I feel. I'm going to take some. This is still rather rough, so we take some sandpaper. Get in there quickly. Smooth it off a bit. As long as it's okay to the touch, it's going to be okay on your undersuit. You don't want it snagging. And that, quite frankly, is as neat and as perfect as I need it. I'm going to repeat the process on this side. On some parts you will notice this gets a little thicker, so you can leave a bit more of return edge. Use your own references, seek out references and make the parts to suit your body type, your taste. I'm looking at one specific part here, and I won't be doing very much measuring. This is all kind of eyeballed. It's really just looking at screenshots and photos of original parts and roughly trying to replicate it. It looks roughly okay to me, so I'm going to go and cut that now. Here you can see I have a little kind of a nick. It's not quite perfect. You can get rid of a lot of it with sandpaper, or if you want to be really authentic, you can leave it in. But I think it's advisable to sand it out if you don't want it to get caught on your undersuit. You don't want your undersuit snagging. So, say sometimes for little areas like this, shaving off a little bit there just to get that little unevenness out. A cutter like that can be quite good. And that's good to go. I'm going to carry on like that for the rest of the biceps and the armour itself. I hope this video was useful and interesting for you. If so, please do like and subscribe. As I say, this is one tutorial in a series. I will be publishing regular videos, hopefully 2 per week, at least 1 per week whilst I am building this armour. You can see exactly what I have posted already by clicking the link down below to the playlist, or just searching the channel for the playlist for Stormtrooper tutorials. That's all for this time. I hope it was useful for you, as I say. Until next time, take care.